Good evening. Our top story tonight. The war between the United States and Iran has entered its fourth month, and tonight it is still not over. Just hours ago, an Iranian drone struck Kuwait's international airport, injuring several people and forcing all air traffic to a halt. It is the latest blow in a conflict that was supposed to end with a ceasefire back in April. A ceasefire that, in practice, has been broken again and again. This evening, where the fighting stands right now, the American lives lost, the oil shock rippling through the global economy, and the deal sitting unsigned on the president's desk. We begin with the latest from the Gulf. In the past 48 hours, the United States and Iran have once again traded fire. The US military says it carried out what it called self-defense strikes on Iranian radar and drone control sites after Iran shot down an American drone over the weekend. Iran's Revolutionary Guard responded by firing on a base used by US forces, claiming its targets were destroyed. US Central Command says no American troops were hurt in that exchange. Then, today, the strike on Kuwait. An Iranian drone hit the international airport in Kuwait City. US forces say they intercepted multiple other missiles and drones across the region. The pattern is now familiar. A ceasefire on paper, broken by live fire on the ground. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi warns that a violation on one front, including Lebanon, is a violation on every front. For now, the guns have not fully gone silent. To understand tonight, we go back to February 28th. That morning, the United States and Israel launched a coordinated strike on Iran. President Trump confirmed major combat operations were underway. Within hours, Iranian state media announced that the country's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, had been killed, a man who had ruled for more than 30 years. Iran struck back hard, targeting American bases across the Gulf, in Bahrain, in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait. The human cost for the United States: 13 service members killed, according to the Pentagon. 6 died when a drone hit an operations center at a port in Kuwait. 6 more were lost when a refueling plane went down in Iraq, an incident the military says was not caused by enemy fire. More than 300 American troops have been wounded. But the deepest impact of this war may not be on the battlefield. It's in the global economy. The Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway that carried roughly 1/5 of the world's oil and gas before this conflict, has been largely shut. Iran has blocked most shipping. The United States has blockaded Iranian ports in return. The result? Energy prices surged by 50% or more at the peak of the crisis. In recent weeks, prices have eased on hopes of a deal. Brent crude has fallen about 20% from its 2026 high, its worst month in years, as markets bet the fighting is winding down. But analysts caution, even if the strait reopens, it may only open partially. Refineries, pipelines, and port infrastructure across the Gulf have taken significant damage, and inventories are depleted. Among the sharpest critics is retired Army Colonel Douglas Macgregor, a longtime skeptic of American military intervention. His central argument: Iran, he says, cannot be conquered, not for lack of firepower, but for lack of a plan. Airstrikes, he contends, create only temporary paralysis. without ground forces to follow through, and the US has no appetite for a draft or a massive deployment, that paralysis fades. McGregor goes further into territory that is his forecast, not confirmed fact. He warns of inflation climbing toward 6%, of America's strategic oil reserve running low by summer, even of a sharp contraction in the global economy in the year ahead. He invokes a famous line that every society is only a few meals away from unrest, and argues that decades of stability have left Americans unable to imagine it ending. These are predictions, and they're contested, but they frame the real political question hanging over Washington. How much economic pain can this war generate at home before it becomes the story? In other words, the shock isn't over, it's just paused. The operation has a name, Epic Fury. What it does not yet have is an ending. And that brings us to the White House. Negotiators have reportedly reached a 60-day memorandum of understanding, a deal to extend the ceasefire and begin talks over Iran's nuclear program. But there is a catch. It still requires President Trump's signature, and he has not yet given it. His public signals swing by the day. On one occasion, he posted that Iran really wants to make a deal, and that any agreement would be a good one. Days later, he raised the prospect of going back to finish the job. He asked Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu not to strike Beirut, yet Israeli strikes on southern Lebanon have continued. And after a trip to China, the president publicly questioned the wisdom of a future conflict over Taiwan. The markets now move on his every word. Tonight, the world is waiting on one decision. So this is where we stand tonight, June 4th. A war in its fourth month. A ceasefire that holds only between the strikes. A 60-day agreement waiting on a single signature. And a waterway full of the world's energy that no one has fully reopened. The fighting may be smaller than the wars that came before it, but its reach through the global economy may prove far wider. We will stay on this story as it develops. For now, that's our report. Thank you for watching. Good night.